The words used in the first place were the wrong words. We all tend to react in the moment. And when you're frustrated or you're angry or you're scared that your child's going to hurt themselves, then we tend to just rush in and probably say things that we shouldn't. And we need to think about what we say to our toddlers, because the big difference is, and this is a fundamental thing you need to understand when communicating with a toddler, is that they live in the moment, that they don't plan ahead, and that they cannot make a decision on your words unless they're given all the information that they need. And that is the thing that really falls down with some of those throwaway statements that we use often with toddlers, that we're not giving them the right information in order for them to act the way that we actually want them to. So I'm going to give you some examples today of 5 situations and 5 words and phrases that you should never use with your toddler. And I'll give you alternatives instead so that you have a far positive outcome. So the first one I'm going to say, and this is one that I hear all the time, and it is just really a waste of words when it comes to using it on toddlers. It's hurry up, we're going to be late. This must happen in thousands of households in the morning. You're trying to get your toddler ready. You've either got to take the older sibling to school, or you've got to get them both out the door because your toddler's going to daycare. You need to get to work, whatever the situation is. You've got to be for an appointment and they're stalling. They don't want to put their shoes on. They don't want to put their coat on. Whatever you want them to do, they don't want to do. And something I've learned about toddlers is if you use the word hurry or get a move on, they immediately dig their heels in. They have no concept of what hurrying means. That's because toddlers don't know how time passes. They live in the moment. So when they're playing with that toy 10 minutes before you want to leave the house, and you just say, come on, we got to go, put your shoes on, get your coat on, we need to get in the car, then they're just going to go, what is going on? I have no idea why my parents running around, they seem anxious, they're cross, what am I going to do? And then they start to dissemble completely, and you're likely to end up with a tantrum, and you're going to end up shouting. And when you start saying, you're going to make me late, hurry up, all those things, they mean absolutely nothing to your toddler. It's just an outpouring of frustration on your part. So how do you solve that situation? Well, this is one of those major transitions that I'm always talking about. It's a transition from being in the house to leaving the house. And that happens probably every day. And so you need to plan. You need to make sure that you've got everything ready first. And you need to make sure you've got enough time. If you're having to hurry and you're late, it's not your toddler's fault. It means that you have not planned ahead in order to make sure that you have got enough time to get them out the door at a speed at which a toddler can manage. So you need to have everything ready. The shoes and the coat need to be by the front door. Any bags that need to be taken if they're going to daycare need to be packed the night before and ready. So we're not faffing around with any of that stuff. You need to give them time to finish what they're doing. So if they are playing with something, you need to get down to their level and you need to help them finish what they're doing and be able to move on to the next thing without feeling rushed. So maybe they can take the toy with them. And the other thing that I often do is I have a basket of toys by the front door, because a motivation is a great way of getting a toddler to do what you want them to do. So you explain to them that you're going to be leaving. You always give them a warning, but you have to get down to their level. You have to make eye contact. You have to make sure they understand. Yelling it from the other room while you're getting ready is not going to get your toddler to move any quicker. The second phrase we're going to talk about today is the one I also hear quite often is, why are you being so naughty? Or why are you being so difficult? The truth of the matter is, your toddler will not know why, because in their eyes, they don't think they're being difficult and they don't understand what being naughty really means. If they are misbehaving in a way that you don't want them to behave, then you need to explain to them, A, what they are doing wrong, and B, what you would like them to do. So an open-ended question like, why are you being naughty, or why are you misbehaving, or why are you being so difficult? It's one of those open-ended sentences that they are just not developmentally ready to answer. In fact, all they will get from that sentence is that you are disapproving of them, and they probably don't really know why. So how do we fix this one? So your child is misbehaving. They're doing something you don't want them to do. So you need to concentrate on the positive and try and play down the negative. So you focus on the behavior rather than the child. So you're not blaming them, you are explaining what's wrong with the behavior. So if your toddler is hitting their friend or their sibling, for instance, you say, it's not nice to hit your sister or your friend. Let's use gentle hands instead. So you've given them the instruction as to what they should not be doing and why they shouldn't be doing it, but then you've also given them instruction as to what they should do instead. If that doesn't work, you can also say, I can see you're having trouble with gentle hands, let's go do something else. So you're moving them away from the situation, but you're explaining to them why. So you're saying, because you're not using gentle hands, we're now going to have to go do something else. So you are engaging in the behaviour and you are trying to explain to them what the wrong behaviour is and point them in the direction of good behaviour. It's as simple as that. And you'll be surprised at over time how quickly they will learn. So another common statement I hear parents say is, be careful. Now, this is a natural reaction. If you're scared that your child is going to hurt themselves, your instant reaction is to say, be careful. However, with toddlers, be careful is what I call another open-ended sentence. You're not telling them why they need to be careful, and you are not explaining to them what they should be doing instead or helping them to be careful. Be careful really just gives the message that they need to be anxious about something. They can see you're anxious and they think they need to be anxious, but they don't know why they should be anxious. And this can make them anxious about situations that they don't need to be anxious about at all. I think a classic example is when you're taking your children to the playground. You'll often be on hand when they are going on the slide or they're on some other piece of equipment that you can see a potential danger for. Now, you have two options here. Saying be careful isn't really going to help. You need to offer your help to ensure their safety. So you can say, this is quite difficult. Let me give you a hand, or let me hold your hand while you do this. For instance, if your toddler's walking on a low wall and you're concerned they might fall, you could say, let me hold your hand while you do that in case you fall. So then they've understood that you're offering them support, but they're understanding why you're offering them support. And that has far more impact than just saying, be careful. So the next phrase I want to talk about is stop whining or stop crying. We often ask them to use words, or we ask them to use a nice voice instead. But that's not really helping them, because what you need to do is acknowledge the reason why they are whining or they're crying. Acknowledging their feelings is going to have far more impact than just offering them an open alternative that they really don't know how to act out. Toddlers often don't have the right words, for instance. So if you're saying use your words instead of whining or crying, they aren't really going to know what to do with that, because often, especially if they're tired or hungry, they're not going to be able to compute and use the words that you would like them to use. The best thing you can do when they're whining or crying is to say, I understand that you're angry, frustrated, tired, hungry, and then you distract. You offer them a distraction or some comfort, because they're not going to turn around to you and say, I'm whining or I'm crying because I'm hungry, tired, cross with you because you wouldn't let me do X, Y, or Z. So it's a waste of time. It's an open-ended statement yet again that is not going to get the desired reaction that you actually want from your toddler. And then the final statement is a very simple one, which I'm sure we've all used far too often, is don't do that, or stop doing that. When your child's doing something that you don't want them to do, it's very easy to just say, stop throwing the ball, stop hitting your brother, stop banging that toy on the table, stop jumping on the sofa. There are innumerable things that you would want to stop your child from doing. However, just stop doing that is not telling them how to stop doing that. And toddlers need direction. They're not going to be able to come up with that solution themselves. When they're caught up in the moment, they don't know how to stop it without your help. So look at it this way, that you're actually helping them to stop the bad behaviour by explaining to them what you want them to do. So you have to offer them an alternative. I also find it's very useful to have what I call repetitive house rules and house sayings. So if you're using the same sayings every time they do things, because the chances are your toddler will have repetitive behaviour that you don't want them to do. And for them it's joyous. For them it's exploring. For them it's fun. It might not be safe, it might be dangerous, and it might not be kind. But for them they are just exploring and finding out what happens and what the repercussions are for their actions. Having these repetitive statements that you use can help them learn how to behave in a way that is acceptable. So if they're running inside the house, you can say we use walking feet inside. If they're in the store and they're touching everything, you can ask them to look with their eyes only and not with their hands. If they're yelling inside the house, say we use our inside voice in the house, and suggest if they want to use their outside voice, then they can go outside. If they're jumping on the furniture, you can say feet are for floors, furniture are for bottoms. And they usually find that quite funny. And finally, if they are hitting somebody, you could say something like, hands are for playing. They're not for hitting. So if you have these sort of mantras that you say every time, eventually your toddler will understand and even get to the point where you can ask them what they should be doing. And you can say something like, and what do we do? Which voice do we use when we are in the house? And they'll go, my inside voice. And you go, yes, so let's use our inside voice. So you can see if you repeat them enough, how that will establish good behavior. And it has far more impact than a stop doing that or don't do that. And it also concentrates on the positive behavior, all of which is offering your toddler the solution to the problem. And it also gives them the best opportunity to behave well and to have a positive outcome. And that's what using your words with your toddler really is all about. It's about giving them the best opportunity to get it right. And in order to do that, you need to give them as much information as you possibly can, and to make them feel as safe as you possibly can in that situation. Finally, I just want to say there's no such thing as the perfect parent. And I think there's far too much pressure on parents today to be perfect. And we sit here and we give you all this advice, and then there can be huge pressure to always get it right. The point of my videos is not to tell you to always get it right. The point of my videos is to say this is the best way to do it most of the time, but also to acknowledge that we don't always get it right. So if you do make a mistake and you do say the wrong thing and you do accuse your child of making you late or upsetting you or saying the wrong, and you do say the wrong thing when you're trying to deal with the situation, the best thing to do, as I say, is to repair the situation and apologize. It's really important that your children see you as a fallible and normal human being. And also, when you apologize to them, you are teaching them how to apologize to people as they grow. You are teaching them a really big life lesson about how important it is to admit when you do something wrong and then to make amends for it afterwards. So don't be afraid if you make a mistake. Don't be afraid if you use the wrong words. So all these things that I'm saying, don't say to your toddler. Try not to say them to your toddler most of the time. But when you do, and when you make a mistake, just apologize. It's fine. And you will be teaching them such an important life lesson too. So I hope going through these phrases that we're all guilty of using, I have certainly used them myself, but I learned over the years that they were empty words. They open-ended sentences do not have any impact on toddlers whatsoever. I hope by explaining how easy it is to fall into those habits, that it's very easy to fix it, and how you can have a far more positive outcome and have better communication with your toddler, which is what's really most important. If you'd like to know more about communicating with your toddler, which is something that I'm really passionate about, and what a big difference your words can make to the relationship that you have with your toddler, then take a look at our Calm Connections course. There'll be a link below. Also, don't forget to like, comment or subscribe, because then we can let you know when we've got more exciting content coming up. And I always like to hear your thoughts and any subject that you might like me to talk about in the future. Thank you.